Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Logan, and today we are going to be taking an in-depth look at Unlocking the Tarot, Create Your Own Keys by Lisa Pepez with a foreword by Barbara Moore. Now you've probably noticed there are a shit ton of little pink Clefairy sticky notes sticking out of this, and those are basically just to remind me of points that I want to stop on and talk about as we're going through, because your girl has no recall, okay? Memory span, Dory. Dory Finding Nemo. So we're aided today by a lot of pink, and that's just how it should be, and I think it'll be a good time. So this book, I got this book in from Llewellyn. Very kindly, they sent me a review copy, so thank you, Llewellyn, a handful of weeks ago, and this was the first one out of the bunch that I picked up, and I just greatly enjoyed it. I've known, throughout the years via word of mouth that Lisa Pepez's educational materials on YouTube have been, kind of a hit, kind of a thing. So I went into this with, I would say, like reasonably high expectations, and my expectations were met and they were also exceeded. Like, this is such a personable book. It's very easy to get into. Lisa's authorial voice, is that a word? Lisa's author voice was just very friendly, very welcoming, very to the point. There's no excessive flowery language to get in the way. It's very practical, and it's very much here to see our skills, our self-worth, our abilities as readers grow. And so, yeah, let's get into it. So, so many sticky notes. All right, our first one. So, the introduction. The first thing that struck me about this book was the introduction, which is, I threw my first tarot guidebook in the trash. That's our first sentence. And when it comes to books, novels or nonfiction, I so appreciate a first sentence that grabs my attention. And so this being a tarot manual of sorts, opening up with the author saying, yeah, I threw my first tarot guidebook in the trash, I think it's such a fierce move. And it let me know, like, okay, this is going to be frank, this is going to be relatable, and I was not disappointed because it was, in fact, those things. So, as has been made clear to me from others, let's remove these as we go so that it doesn't stay looking like a weird paper pincushion situation. One of the things that was made abundantly clear to me whenever I told a couple friends that I was lucky enough to get a review copy and things like this, which, by the way, if you are interested in this book, I believe it publishes October 8th in the US. One of the things my friends told me was like, oh, okay, well, you're probably going to need a deck of tarot cards that you can actually write on if I know Lisa's workshops and, courses and things like that. And lo and behold, they were 100% right. So I will go ahead, if I can find the picture that I took of my study deck, I will put it on the screen somewhere. But it's a lot of fun to work with. So for the supplies, you will need to work with this book. All right, so a tarot deck, obviously. And you'll want one that you can actually mark up. So I went ahead and purchased the Modern Witch Tarot, which apparently I was the only person on the planet who didn't realize how how poor quality that box is, because every time I would lift it to pick it off the table to go off and bring it to the couch and study in there, the bottom kept falling out of it, and I was just like, this deck has no ass. This deck needs to do Kegels. I mean, the box. So, Lisa also recommends fine point permanent marker or pen, which I used this, and I can't give you a brand name, unfortunately, but it worked well. It was cheap. And also a journal, which I did have, and I've had so many journals over the years, and it was great to finally make use of one. I'm bad about collecting journals. I've stopped since then, but I had quite a few of them. So the first chapter gets us into basically Lisa's origin story when it comes to her relationship with tarot, which I thought was really interesting because it's not like she came into this, with a wealth of knowledge, thinking that anybody can do tarot. She very much, it was a learning curve. It was a learning curve. She also talks about her very first tarot reading that she received from a professional reader, which I thought was fascinating because it wasn't all like cherries and roses, there was there were some bumpy parts there. And that is really what the accuracy of that reading as her life unfolded after that is what sparked her curiosity to really want to know more about tarot. And so I really appreciated that she shares her tarot origin story in this book. Another thing that she shares in the book that I found just super helpful was she talks about tarot misconceptions. And she also lists them out here. So what I really enjoyed is, because I don't know about you, but whenever I first started tarot, I had already bought my first deck at this point, but I did hear whispers of, oh, well, you're not supposed to buy your first deck. It's supposed to be a gift. I heard, you have to wrap your decks in silk and sleep with them under your pillow for anything to work. Only, pagan people or witchy types can read tarot. So there's like all these different bits of misinformation that all have like, understandable enough origins, but have just sort of gotten twisted over time to no longer be helpful, but to be a hindrance to people. Even stuff about like the origins of tarot, because I feel like a lot of times tarot, in order to sell it, and I can't remember if this is what Lisa actually mentions here about number 6, tarot cards originated in ancient Egypt or some other ancient civilization. I can't remember what she actually says there, but I remember reading about, I can't remember which publisher it was, if it was US Games or what, but someone was trying to increase interest in tarot, and so they tacked on the whole ancient civilization thing to boost the mystique. And I mean, did it work? I don't know. Maybe it did. Maybe they weren't wrong, but they were spreading misinformation. So that was really interesting to me to hear from someone so experienced talking about these different tarot misconceptions, these rules that you're supposed to have in place, whenever you're starting out with tarot or reading tarot in general. So this book is all about tarot keywords, right? And so Lisa does a great job of explaining what her goal is. So why don't we read just this one page? I don't want to give the whole book away. I want you to actually check out the book, rent it from your local library, buy it, download it from, some EPUB shop, something. It's a really good time. I totally recommend it. I don't know if that was obvious yet. Why wait until the end to say that? 5 out of 5 stars for me, but all right. So about keywords. Tarot for me is like buried treasure. You can spend your entire life never knowing it exists, let alone having an opportunity to experience it. And yet, the wisdom it offers is right there, within reach. From the moment I had that first reading, I knew tarot was special, but I had no idea how to unlock its mysteries. When I opened my first box of tarot cards, I found 78 keys. Each of these cards and their associated keyword unlocked a unique part of the tarot. A keyword is exactly what it sounds like it is. It's a word that acts like a key to unlock a broader meaning. This quality makes the single keyword method of learning the tarot incredibly powerful. Imagine standing at the seaside. Your toes dig into the sand. The wind whips around you and through your hair. The waves lap peacefully nearby. Choose a word to capture this feeling. Now, I did. Me, at home in real time when I was reading this, I was like, okay, what word would I pick? And I think I went with like tranquility or calm or something like that. Some words that immediately came to mind for me, Lisa, are freedom, peace, calm, home, or bliss. I'll choose the word bliss. Picture this exact scene on a card. Written on the bottom of that card is the single word you chose. Then imagine pulling this card in answer to the question, what should I focus on today? This card, with that single word, has the solution for you. What is it telling you? My word was bliss, so I might see that card draw as a reminder that today I should do something that helps me tap into bliss, or that I should look for small moments of bliss during an otherwise hectic day. Now, this does go on. I'm not going to read it all verbatim, but she does a really great job of outlining the value of keywords. And another point that she touches on that I really appreciated was the value of choosing a neutral keyword, because every card in the tarot, and she does highlight this in a much more carefully articulated way, every card in the tarot is going to have its brightness and its shadow. So even a positive card like the 3 of Cups, sure, we can see good times and enjoyment and camaraderie with our friend group on the brighter side, but on the more shadowed side, the more reversed aspect, It could be a lack of community. It could be, betrayal coming from somewhere deep within. It can be feeling like an outcast from a community maybe that we want to be a part of. And same thing can be true of the tower. Like, okay, sure, it can be terrifying in its upheaval, and that can be a seemingly negative aspect of it. But at the same time, the tower is really liberating us from illusions that no longer serve us. So it's a clean slate to start from, and that's a very positive thing. So Lisa does a really good job of explaining why neutral keywords are really great to assign to these various cards that we're going to be looking at. I also appreciate that she keeps the power for us as readers of this book and readers of tarot in our own hands. As she says here, rule number 2, you're the boss. I'm not the boss. Your best friend whose grandmother taught them to read tarot is not the boss. Your favorite tarot YouTuber is not the boss. You are the only person who gets to decide what word you will use for each card. You. That's us. I love that. I love that. Because so many times, so much of tarot, so much of Lenormand, you get very hard opinions on, well, this thing can only be this one way. That's the only way you can ever interpret it forever to the end of time, and we're all gone. And that, considering that tarot, Lenormand, oracle decks, these things are all human creations. We didn't find them in a rich vein in the ground. Somebody wasn't mining one day and was like, oh, struck a rich vein of Sibylla cards, struck a rich vein of tarot. No, we made this shit up. It just happens to be beautifully useful, practical, and it can connect us to deeper things, the divine, things like that. But it's human made. And as such, it's okay to change things. It's okay for us to approach it with our own sets of meanings and perceptions and things like that. So I really appreciated that Lisa pointed that out. And I also appreciated rule number 3, gender is irrelevant unless it's helpful. And she touches on this more throughout these paragraphs, but basically she's just just stating from the jump, like, these cards, you have ones like the Emperor, the Empress, King of this, Queen of that. They might be gendered in their presentation in the deck, but these things are not limited to gender or sex or anything like that of an individual that you're reading for, whether that's yourself or someone else. And she just urges people to, be mindful of sometimes, if you're reading for someone and it's a relationship reading and you don't know if they're dating, who they're dating, what their partner's gender identity is, things like that. It can be useful to use neutral words like partner or spouse or significant other instead of just assuming that they have a husband or assuming that they have a wife. Because as a queer person, as someone who is in a relationship with a man, it is always really awkward when somebody's like, oh, your girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, it's a very small thing that you can do to make your reader feel more comfortable and to avoid just an unnecessary moment of awkwardness. So I really appreciate that Lisa brought that up. So the first thing that she tackles is the major arcana, and she gives us a rundown of the Fool's Journey using different metaphorical stories, which I thought was really nice. She does touch on the dreaded 3 of tarot, which are the Tower, Death, and the Devil. Loved that. She gives us a rundown of what archetypes are, and then we get into the meat of it. Like, here we are, 30 pages in, which is not much considering the amount of info that we've covered. And we start with the Fool. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these because, again, I want you to read the book. But I want to give you a little taste of what's in here. So let's just read a couple of paragraphs from the Fool. So Lisa says, my keyword for this card is risk. The definition of risk is moving forward in the presence of danger. Of all the cards in the tarot, the Fool is the card that inspires me the most. There's openness, trust, and boldness to this image. A person whose gender is ambiguous walks straight ahead, not looking at their feet but trusting in the journey. They don't know, or they don't care, how arduous the trip will be. They know they want to move forward, do something, learn something, experience something. The Fool has had experiences. They've had successes, and they've had failures. Look how light they travel. And this is something Logan, I've never noticed before. Look how light they travel. There's no way they have even an extra pair of shoes in there, talking about the little bindle, the bag on their stick there. says, there's no way they have even an extra pair of shoes in there. I could never pack so lightly, literally or metaphorically, and I mean, same. In life, we always bring our experiences with us. We jokingly refer to having emotional baggage. The only experiences the fool can fit in that tiny little pouch are those necessary for the present journey they are beginning and nothing more. They don't lug around their failures and their fears. They step forward with total faith that somehow everything will work out. That already, so I started reading this book and I'm like, I want to read it. I want to see what Lisa's teaching style is like. I want to get some of her viewpoints and see how she can help me to come up with keywords for each card. And within those first couple of paragraphs for the Fool, I was like, already she is pointing things out to me that I have never considered before. Like, at all. I never considered. I was just, all right, the Fool has a bindle. It never occurred to me the baggage symbolism and how traveling so lightly means that they're not letting their past weigh them down. Mind blown. It's a simple thing, but mind blown. Because, I mean, did you ever hear that? I never heard of that. So I was impressed. The other thing that Lisa does for every entry that I really enjoy is she not only gives us her keyword at the beginning, which hers was risk. I think for me with the Fool, I'd be tempted to go with gamble, but I feel like that's like what? Risk's twin sister or something. So I'm good with risk, but she also offers a couple other angles for you in case you can't think of your own keyword, or maybe you just want to see what else she has. Maybe one of these already vibes with your own keyword. So she offers naivety and innocence, beginning/beginner, and then trust/faith. And those all do a really great job as well, in my opinion, of encapsulating Fool energy. So already you can see the level of care and detail and the way that Lisa caters to the reader as an author, which I find fabulous, especially in something educational like this. So we go on, and the end of the Major Arcana section, we look over here at a section where it says, getting to know your Major Arcana keywords, how to read in 5 easy steps. And she walks us through doing simple tarot spreads and readings. And then she also gives us a few different spreads that we can try, all of which are super beginner friendly. And I just love that. So then, okay, see my little doodles? We have fire, water, wind, and earth. We have a leaf for earth. So that's because something I really loved about the minor arcana section is that Lisa goes into elemental associations. And I know we get this in a lot of decks, a lot of guidebooks rather, so it's not something that's not touched on per se, but the depth in which Lisa goes into it, and she again brings keywords to each suit. She supplies the ones that she uses, like passion for the suit of wands, and then she also gives a couple of alternatives. So maybe enthusiasm would be good for you to describe the suit of wands, or intensity. I love that. So she goes through each element in that way. And then something that I found especially helpful is that she goes into the numerology. She goes into the significance of each number of the numbered cards, of the ace as potential, of the 2 as choice, of the 4 as stability. These are things that I have always been curious about, but I just never make time to actually look into. And also I don't know where to start. You know, sometimes when you want to learn something new when it comes to divination, there are so many avenues and options of accomplishing that you really do get analysis paralysis. And so this was such a pleasant surprise in this book. Next to the keywords, next to the elemental association lesson, it's just so well-rounded as a book that I can't not recommend it. But I thought it was fabulous, and this really helps me to make sense of some of the cards in the RWS that even after reading for a few years now, I'm just like, yeah, I get that that's the Rider-Waite-Smith meaning, but which is predominantly what we're dealing with, what we're looking at in this book. I can't remember if Lisa brings the numerology into all of the like card write-ups or not, because again, I have the memory of Dory from Nemo, but I just thought it was fabulous because there's some that just don't there's some that just don't fit for me, at least in the way that a lot of guidebooks express them. So this was really great, and I found it very useful. So again, we have the potential keywords. Lisa gives us her own keyword, or one of her favorite keywords, and then will give us some options for each of the minors. Then just like the last section, the minors section ends, which in this we're covering ace through 10 to be specific. The courts get their own section. So again, we have spreads that we can try. So here we get to the courts, and Lisa has this to say in the opening little segment here, so let's take a look at it. The 16 faces, the court cards. It's time to meet the 16 faces or personalities of the tarot, the court cards. Ask anyone who has ever attempted to learn the tarot, and they will tell you that the court cards are the most challenging. It certainly took a long time for me to build a strong connection with each of them. My breakthrough came when I stopped trying to see them the same way as all the other cards, because they aren't the same, and they aren't interpreted the same way as the majors or the numbered minors. The court card's primary function is to represent people and personalities that interact with or influence us, but that's not the only thing they represent. While the face cards of tarot can represent people and personalities, their qualities can apply to aspects of ourselves, yes, aspects of a situation or problem or other influences. It's this flexibility that can make the court cards feel more difficult to learn. That's why I have separated them for you in this book. I'm so glad that Lisa touched on court cards. Yes, they can symbolize other people, but they can also symbolize facets of self as energetic phases that we move through. That's how I look at them. And then I'd never even considered applying the personality traits of the court cards to inhuman things like situations, predicaments, problems, influences. I think that's fascinating. So it was just, again, such a fascinating read. We have another note about gender, which is really great. Let's see. All right, I was seeing if we needed to read the whole paragraph, but you got the gist of what I said from earlier, so we're good on that note. Let's see what we have next. Oh, okay, yes, chapter 6. Don't let these mix-ups trip you up. This section I found really invaluable because when I was learning tarot, and even some years after, these cards are so easy to confuse the energies of, as in like, okay, well, I have justice in a reading and judgment in the same reading. Isn't that redundant? You know what I mean? And Lisa really helps you to look at them and break it down to where like, no, even though they might have similarities thematically, here are key differences. And I love that. This is, again, something that I have not seen in a tarot manual before. So we have justice versus judgment, the hermit versus the hanged man, which is another one I can totally see confusing people. Death versus the tower. I mean, upheaval and upheaval. How do we draw lines between that? And Lisa does, and it's really well done. Same with the sun versus the world. And it's not just the major. She also gives us 2 of Wands versus 3 of Wands, which, can I tell you how many decks I have seen that the guidebook and the artwork for the card does a piss poor job of differentiating between the 2 of Wands and the 3 of Wands? So many. This helps. This is beautiful. This is wonderful. Same with 9 and 10 of Cups. I still get tripped up sometimes in my readings when it comes to the 9 of Cups versus the 10 of Cups because I do feel like they share so much DNA. 5 of Swords and 5 of Wands. You know, you get the idea. We don't have to go through all of them. But I loved that section. It was such a fun surprise because, again, I was just coming into this anticipating keywords. I wasn't anticipating all this other goodness, like this buffet of delicious tarot goodness. She has a chapter on card combinations and how to take a almost mathematic approach to it, which I thought was really interesting, and I won't spoil, but know that it's there and it's really cool. Common tarot spreads to practice. There are several common ones in here, of course, including the Celtic Cross, which, you know, I've slagged off a lot on before, but I might actually start trying this spread because I know it's tried and true. And having Lisa walk me through it, I think would be a hell of a lot better than just me trying to deal with it on my own. I usually don't draw more than 5 cards, honestly. I rarely use spreads. I used to use Holly's Enchanted Week Ahead spread from Holly Enchanted on Instagram. That one is great. There's a lot of great spreads out there, but I tend to just draw on the fly. So the Celtic Cross has never been my lover. It never got with my friends. If we could take it to Spice Girls there. So I'm really excited to try this with Lisa's guidance going through it, because, I mean, that's a lot of cards. And then finally, taking it to the next level. So we have a conclusion chapter here, if you will, almost an epilogue. And one thing that she focuses on that I so appreciate is breaking the rules of tarot. The best advice I can give you for upping your tarot game is to learn the rules so you can break them. The most profound readings I've ever given or received have resulted from breaking the rules by going off book and interpreting the cards in whatever way feels right in the moment. And look, I am all here for going by the book, for learning what the things mean, to master use of the tool as it was intended, and then taking that rule book and chucking it in the fireplace and using it in the way that is going to best benefit you. So I love that Lisa talks about the value of breaking the rules, because it is very valuable. I don't know if everybody does that, and I'm not saying that everybody has to do that, and I don't think Lisa, I can't imagine she would have said that everybody has to do that, because she's very live and let live when it comes to divination, which I think is how everybody should be. And it confuses me when people aren't. It's just like, okay, we're playing a made up game to tell the future. Can we calm down? Can we be less serious? So yeah, this was so much more than I bargained for. I cannot wait for this to publish on October 8th. I'm so curious what the back is going to look like in the real version, since this is an advanced reader copy. It was just a great time. This is by far the best beginner tarot book that I've ever read. And I would say it's also the best one for like an intermediate or advanced level, just in the way that she walks you through each of these energies so beautifully, and also in such a personal way. You really get Lisa as an author, her perspective on the cards, her unique lens for the cards. And when so many books, at least that I've read, just regurgitate the same little white book that you get in the RWS meaning, like, this is such a refreshing breath of fresh air. I love that she, dives a bit into the symbolism of some of the cards. I love the choice of keywords. I love that she walks you through the process of how to consider what might make a good keyword. So it's not just her spoon feeding you shit. Like, she wants to empower the reader. I just thought this was great. So yeah, I very much so wow, that was not that was not a grammatically correct sentence in the slightest. I am very much so looking forward to everyone getting a chance to read this. Please let me know if you have pre-ordered it already, if you have also read an arc of it, if you're planning to get it. Have you taken any of Lisa's courses in the past? I just want to talk about this book. It's fabulous. So yeah, if you've been on the fence about it, I hope that my video will help you get off the fence one way or the other, and really hoping that you would enjoy this book just as much as I have. Also, the cover art is really beautiful. So yes, this has been our little review of sorts for Unlocking the Tarot by Lisa Pepez, with foreword by Barbara Moore. This was published by Llewellyn. So again, thank you so much, Llewellyn, for this review copy. This has been a fabulous read. This one is definitely going to be sticking around on my shelves, and I look forward to pulling it out again in the future whenever I'm doing readings and feeling a little bit stumped, because, it's just an interesting book. And again, the author voice, very personable, very welcoming, relatable. Yeah, I'm gushing, and I didn't mean to be, but I'm glad I am. It would suck to be like, hey, can you send me a review copy of something? And then they send it, and then you just fucking hate it because it's trash, or it just doesn't vibe with you in the slightest. But this is genuinely, it was such a pleasant surprise. So yeah, I'm going to shut up now. This has been going on for a long time. And thank you so much for hanging out with me and taking a look at Unlocking the Tarot by Lisa Pepez. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your week. And in the meantime, take care of yourself. And until next time, bye-bye.